Okay.
Good afternoon, all. I'd like to call to order the June meeting of the Cohoes IDA. Mr. Dwyer, if you call roll.
Mr. Dion?
Here.
Ms. Harlow?
Here.
Mr. Pascal?
Here.
Mr. Dwyer, present. Mr. Moore? Absent. Mr. DeChiro? Absent. Mr. Paradise?
Here.
For the record, Mr. DeChiro may be calling in. He had a situation at work, so I'll leave my phone open and see if he calls in. The first, with a quorum present, we'll move forward. Our first item is the approval of our last meeting minutes. Any changes, anything? Okay.
No. Motion.
Motion, thank you, Mr. Pascal. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our next item is to move on to something fun and something that has been long awaited, especially for the members of the board who have been here many, many years. We finally get to make a positive step forward and hoping to fill in some spaces in the city that have been long vacant and hopefully fulfill some of the duties that go along with this in the sense of bringing some jobs in and some economic development. So we have both had over a month to look at both proposals. As we know, both people came in before. I'd like to open up for discussion. So what we are achieving today is we're going to have a discussion, and at the end, we will be voting to award a contract to one of the two parties. At that point, it would be up to them to move forward. We will not be doing any sale or transaction at this point. It would be incumbent to them to fulfill the covenants of the contract that they have to move forth and get all approvals through the city, all the different boards. It's going to be turned over to Sharon and Steve, and they do what they do. And then when that is achieved and comes back, we would have the final say of selling the property, which of course would be based on that it meets the criteria that we hope, and obviously that it's based on the criteria of what we believe we are moving forward today. So there is financial considerations to be made today. Joe, I know you did some research for us on either proposals. I think we're okay.
Why don't you put on the record what you're considering, like the bare bones?
Of the two projects.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I apologies. As we know, we are looking at two different proposals to use the space known as the former Golden Cross. In no specific order, the first one is a proposal by Milltown Homes, which is looking to take two of the properties that are already there, restoring them, bringing them back to full use, and then building four other properties?
Two other properties.
Two other properties?
Yep.
I think a total
Two
of
other
four
residential properties.
And then utilizing the metal building that is already on site and from my understanding in good working condition to turn that into a sports training area in practice fields. I think that was very interesting. I like how it uses both aspects. The second is Skylar Bakeries.
Just to amend that as a correction, so it's actually 3 additional residential.
Okay.
Converting the existing metal building,
Yep.
and then in the future actually building another metal building.
Apologies, correct. Thank you. The second is Skylar Bakeries, which is looking at utilizing the former Golden Cross site in the building, which is already in a fairly stable working condition for them. They have been looking to expand their business. They have been having to turn down contracts with local vendors like Hannaford and Market 32. They too would also like to resurrect the 2 properties on the building to be used both for rental income and or for employee housing, what have you. And then as their third step, they are looking at also building a retail store with apartments, I believe, up on top again, either both for market rate apartments or used for their employees. Certainly there's a fondness for that, being that it is the former Golden Cross bakery. It's hard not to ignore that fact. Skylar Bakery also has Milltown, their reputation. I mean, we're very lucky, the two organizations. We couldn't do any better having two great companies to choose from. So with that said,
Yeah, so something just to note for the record, you did an appraisal, and the appraisal came in at 265. So that's really your starting point for the purchase price. It's a minimum that we need to abide by unless we have very specific explanation. Because this particular sale will be on notice to the ABO because it's negotiated instead of RFP. So I just wanted to
This one is RFP.
put that, oh, this one, I keep forgetting.
Yep.
This one
Yes.
is RFP.
Should you also, for the record, state the amount that each of those applicants?
sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to get the appraisal on the record first.
Yes.
So Pete, what were the,
I'm going to give you the, yes.
I think it's, I don't
I have
know if you
You have
mentioned it, but the former metal building is where they will be consolidating all of the baking operations, so,
correct. And you're also bringing some jobs over.
and providing 20 jobs.
Milltown Homes they had put in a price, I believe, of $225, and Skylar came in. They had broken it down to three between the metal building, the land, and the residential, but they come in at $245.
245.
So
But the appraisal,
financially, they're both pretty close.
265 was the appraisal.
Yeah.
And basically, you were supposed to abide by the appraisal unless there was exceptions.
Yep.
So we have our baseline. Now it's a decision of what direction we want to go in, and
Well, again, we had discussion at the last meeting, and I don't think it can be overemphasized how wonderful both of these proposals are.
absolutely.
I mean, this is just a fantastic turn of events that we finally, as you mentioned, have something really good to look at. And
Yeah.
this is a win-win situation. And it sounds pat, but there is no loser in this. We
No.
would like to see both of these projects happen, one manner, shape, or form. So we're very keen on both projects.
Agreed.
Sadly, we have to pick one, but the other one, we really do
Or-
want to continue
Or
to.
do we?
242 is a correction to the appraisal. I just pulled it up. It was
Okay.
December.
We do have to pick
214.
one.
No, I was just kidding.
Hold
Just
on,
kidding.
before you get to a discussion, on what to do with the other project.
Yeah.
But just don't muddy the water.
No,
with
I
that
know.
discussion, because we have to,
No,
okay.
just a joke.
Had me scared there.
Just a joke.
uh,
Ed, you got any thoughts?
Yeah. Looking at both proposals, both fantastic. I'm just going back and looking at the ABO's policy, and one of them is a lot stronger than the other candidates. Do you want me to name that candidate? Skylar? I think they bring a lot more to the table. That being said, I don't want to lose Milltown. What can we do for them? I'm going to throw out a couple of things here. I might be nuts. All right. Is any of that junk up property available to sell to them?
Okay,
That's what Kate's
Yeah,
talking about. We
let's-
can't
you have to pretty
resolve
much
A before we go to B.
have a discussion on your points that you want to have, and then you
Okay.
need to take, regardless of what other project,
Okay.
then you can go on and discuss what's left, but
And we really have an area for that in the agenda for.
We do. Yeah, the last
at the
agenda
end of
item.
it, So it's all good.
because technically your vote can't be contingent upon something for the other
Correct.
project.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
But when we need to keep both these people in here, we have two great people.
You have to excuse us, Kate, you've been here the whole time. We've never had options before.
You're telling me,
We're a little, we don't know what to do. We actually have choices.
I've had 4 boards. so,
Yeah.
I
I
like
hear you.
I think they bring a lot more to the table.
Joe?
Well, I agree with Ralph and Ed that both projects are needed in Cohoes and would be appreciated in Cohoes and would be wanted in Cohoes. Looking at, what was in the description of the projects, the Milltown there was a portion of the athletic center and a good chunk of residential. Definitely needed in Cohoes. What Skylar brought was a retail, which is what it was before, for selling their baked goods. Business, because that'd be their headquarters, business offices on the floor above, and light industrial, which is kind of in our name. You know?
Correct.
So having an industrial use in the back that could have potentially employed 20 people, I think that makes me lean that way. Again, I'm not gonna, it would be great to see an athletic venue like that in Cohoes, so not everyone's going everywhere else. And I could see the schools using it, and just everybody. But I would lean more towards the industrial use than the athletic use. So I would lean more towards Skylar.
There's certainly a sentiment going one way. And I think many ways we knew that because there just seemed to be, a bakery replacing a bakery. It just seemed a little too Hollywood scripted, to be quite honest. Then to go out, I'm one of the few, I've never been there, and to go out and talk to people about Skylar Bakery, what have you. I'm excited to go down if this process is over and check it out. I think when we make decisions like this, we are making an immediate impact, but we also have to think, I always say when I talk to my clients, you have to think down the road. And I think that this does give us the best bang for the buck that handles a lot of the issues that the people on the island have had in the past. It will not be an inordinate amount of residents moving and whatever, but it will be commerce. It will be going back to our past a little bit, and it's hard not to acknowledge that. So with that, I would call for a recommendation that we move forward with Skylar Bakeries.
Make a motion?
I second it.
Okay? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're going to acknowledge Laura's.
So you're afraid you're gonna wake up now? It's all a dream.
Until it's built.
Yes.
Yeah.
Still got a long way to go. But that will, you
So-
will reach out to Scott and
I'll reach out to
Let
both
them know
parties,
and-
yeah.
Well, we do have to send a written,
formal letter.
yeah,
Okay, good.
if you want to put one together, Pete.
Yep.
The thing you really didn't discuss though is what's your purchase price.
Oh.
You took a vote to award it, but are you accepting the 245? So you might.
Well,
need
you're
to
telling
go-
us we can't.
Right, you need to go back and,
Okay.
So the,
Scrap that.
on record, the
You never
appraisal,
got to do anything positive before.
it's okay, you can do it twice now.
okay, typically an appraisal has a shelf life of 1 year,
Mhm.
so that's feasible here?
Yeah.
Okay, so the appraisal as of December 28th was $242,000.
Then we would accept their offer 245.
Oh, okay, so it was 242, not 260.
Right, you corrected it.
Oh, all right, well then, yeah, you can accept it at 245 if you wish.
Do at this point, we do have the right, Kate, we've spoken before, we do have the right if we want to enter into negotiations. That's up to you guys. Knowing the cost of everything today, it's probably a fair offer.
Should we, again, thinking more now, award the contract based on the presentation that they made? So that's the price.
Yes.
That's the overall project description, blah, blah, blah. So does that go without saying, or do we need to put that on the list?
Well, there wasn't anything on the record about what price you
Right,
were
she
going,
wasn't on the
so
record.
you would go with the proposal. So we can't, because we have to go to 245, or 240.
5.
Yeah, so,
But beyond that, we're awarding this based on the presentation that they made, so we're not gonna come in and put a used car on.
Correct.
right,
They will
so,
have to abide by the covenants of going through the city.
We need to
receiving
say
all
that
the
now, or
permits.
that's just part of the contract?
so, it is part of the contract, and you might remember, like, when we went down this road with TCB and a few others, the contract has all these contingencies in it. So they'd have to have their planning board approvals. The one thing I would do differently this time and really put in the contract is at the end of the day, it has to be either 90% similar to what's proposed, because
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes it goes through planning and people like to change things. So, I just wouldn't want a project to come out the other side that isn't quite what, you thought it was, a
No.
la Mosaic or,
Teach us.
some other things. So I'm gonna put some more language in there that it has to be substantially the
Substantially what they
same.
presented.
Yeah, I mean, they may have to tweak some things because of zoning and different
Right.
setbacks, and, that's fine, what they're rendering is, but, having it contingent upon government approvals, environmentals, that's really their side, they want to make sure that they're building on a property. We've had an environmental done, and it's fine. So, those kinds of things, and I would look to try and close it within, usually due diligence is about 4 to 6 months tops. So it just depends, as you know, sometimes they need more planning board meetings to adjust things, so it could be a little longer, but, originally I tried to get it to close within 6 to 8 months, and if we need an extension, we could, extend it, but that's basically the next step, and we would only close on the sale if the project is moving forward. And then I would probably suggest that we put in some covenants perhaps to make sure that it gets built the way it's supposed to, or it reverts back to us, something like that. But that's negotiable.
Does it make any difference because they want to take possession and the metal structure may be up and running as a factory within a month after closing? And then,
It's
I think then they
finished.
were doing the residential, right?
Milestones.
Yeah.
Well, that was in the proposal.
That's,
Correct.
that's in the
Correct.
proposal, and I think that would be a part of our contingencies.
Well.
How do we
have it
measure
in the
milestones?
contract, and it would survive the contract, but that's what I'm saying, if there's gonna be future development, we're going to have to put some sort of restrictive covenant on it behind the financing that is on the project. So if they borrow to build, normally we would have to subordinate those covenants to the bank, essentially. So,
There's also something in the RFP about substantial completion within the 24-month period as
Right.
well. So
right. So, I think it's all in what they wind up essentially proposing to the planning board.
Right.
And how that all plays out. But that would be the idea, is to have it completed within 2 years.
Yeah.
Perfect world, they come in a month from now, what's the time frame we looking at?
Well, they have all the paperwork in, it's quite a deadline, it would be within a month that they would appear in front of the planning board. So, and if there's something in particular that you're looking for, with the building, then just let me know, because then I can put it in my memos to the planning board members, so that they know what they should be looking for and approving. And we can make sure that they're submitting to us
Correct.
what you guys are looking for.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should definitely,
Well, we will submit their RFP.
yeah, official correspondence
yeah.
between the IDA and the
We'll send you
planning.
over a memo or whatever, and attach that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on when they get the paperwork.
Right, then we need 8 months from now, who knows, but I just,
Yeah.
from our end, I'm the city.
Because
Once
what
they
I,
have everything in, then I'll just notify them, when the next
Right.
meeting will be that they come here.
Will they have to do environmentals or that all done?
well, will turn over what we have.
Yeah.
They'll probably want to do their own.
Right.
And if a phase one comes back clean, like ours did,
Yeah.
My biggest concern with a phased development is, of course, you close and then for
Right.
whatever reason, it's too expensive or it's this or it's that. And so, I think it has to go to planning probably with all the phases on the record. You know what I mean? And that there has to be something to hold their feet to the fire to have that completed within the 24 months.
That brings up a good point. I mean, would the planning department require them to have a master plan? Since it's a multi-use site.
As everyone turns to Sharon.
I fractured two ribs, so.
Oh,
that's not
geez.
taken. I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch everything you said.
So, I mean, since there would be multiple uses on the site, there'd be, light industrial, residential, business, retail, all on the site, would the planning board require them to have a master plan that gets approved that has a certain amount of square footages and per building and all that?
That's all under the zoning.
Okay.
So, when I get their proposal, I can compare it to what the zoning is for the area
Perfect.
and then tell them, the setbacks are,
Yeah.
Yeah.
size of the buildings, the heights, and things of that nature.
They're gonna have to, it's probably in their best interest, because otherwise you
Makes
could
sense.
build a phase one that's not
Right.
completely
Yeah.
compatible.
Well,
that would
yeah,
give us
normally
more
you
protection,
require
it sounds
zoning approval before the planning board can.
Well, if they don't meet the setbacks, or if it's
Right,
something
okay.
that's not allowed in that area, then they would go through zoning first to
Right.
get their approvals, and then I would push them through to the plan.
So that would be,
I mean, that makes sense to me.
yeah, that would have to be, they'd have to, there's a lot of zoning.
Right. And realistically, we can only do what we can do.
We can
I mean,
only hold their feet.
I mean, we don't,
Anyone straight to the
Projects,
fire with
you know.
that.
we're just speculating.
Yeah,
It would be a win. I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to do that. But I think contractually and upfront, we would say in the contract, it needs to be all completed within 24 months. The contract survives the closing, and then we do something at closing that.
And the RFP is the original contract that they signed and submitted that states that as well. Is it not?
Yeah,
I mean, they
that
committed
they
to,
understand that it
yeah.
has to be completed within 2 years.
Right.
So conceivably, if you're smart, you go once through planning and get it all taken care of.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
then you're sort of this wait and,
Yeah.
piecemeal, segmented is what they call it. And I don't recommend that at all. So,
And Sharon, maybe we can help educate them with this process to make sure and I'm happy to be a part of that, Steve, you as well, just to not let them linger out there and figure it out on their own. And if you want to give me the information, I'll be
anytime that,
the conduit. I'm happy to do that,
sit down
but
with me over the phone,
yeah. Okay.
yeah, it's part of the meeting.
Yeah.
Bring them in.
So let's contact them.
Well, I'll produce a letter. I'll send it to Rod. He and Kate. Oof, I'm blanking on that one. He and Kate can review it and yes, make it
you'll
formal.
remember who I am when it comes to contract time. No, we're not agreeing to that.
Yeah, and then we can, once zoning approves their master plan, they don't have to keep going back.
Agree. No, that makes a lot of
Once
sense.
they get their approval, they can move forward.
Yep.
They get their building permits and they can hit the ground running.
Right.
Yeah.
And is that feasible with a say a 2-year stretch of milestones? We go to zoning and say, we're going to build this in 2 years, 24 months. Can we have your approval? So that's feasible to carry them over 24-month period? Okay.
The other thing I will say is, I forget in the RFP, it said they had to go to contract within 30 days. I forget. It says something to that effect.
Yeah.
We have to try to stay close to that, because what you want to do here is if it doesn't move forward, you can go to the next.
Okay.
And
So,
that's why I put the brakes on a little bit.
so they would go to contract within 30 days of
I
our
can't,
letter.
I can't remember what the RFP says, but there's something in there to that effect.
So we're in contract, but we don't close until.
Oh, right, it's gonna
Okay.
be probably
I just had to work that
8
through my head
months,
for a second.
maybe, I'm just saying that until it goes to contract.
Yeah,
If they're gonna do a dance for 4 months, then forget it. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, we really gotta,
Okay.
and then you'd have the potential to go to the second proposal if you wanted to.
Okay.
So conceivably by the next meeting,
Hold on, I'm hearing too. Go ahead.
conceivably by the next meeting. So if we did have to change, we would do it at the July meeting.
No, well, we'll lose a week here getting things drawn up, but close.
So what do we go, Milltown?
We can't have that discussion yet. Kate hasn't given me the link yet.
I mean, it's public, you just awarded it to Skylar, but if it doesn't go to contract within a certain amount of time,
They have the right to first refusal.
you would have the right to then go to the next proposed project if you wanted to.
So Milltown would know that you're second right now.
Right. It's on the record.
Anybody
So they may
watching,
say, okay, fine.
as would
Screw us,
anybody.
yeah,
Yeah.
if it's us. Gotta find a way to keep it, okay.
All right, but that's
Good
next,
plans.
that's next.
That's next.
That's on the
So,
agenda.
so what we need to go back to is, what are you going to, what's your number, 245?
Yes.
So you want another motion with the price involved?
Yes, please.
So we're gonna, but we do not have to put the covenants in because that's part of the contract.
Yeah, that contract's gonna come back to all of you, you'll see it, you'll
Should
approve
I
it.
amend the motion or we want to do
Just do it, please.
it?
So at this point, I'm going to call for a motion that we will be, after all covenants are met, we will be selling the property to Skylar Bakeries for the amount of $245,000.
Make a motion.
Mr. Dudwire, a second.
A second?
Mr. Pascal, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Laura abstained.
And Laura abstained, yes.
Now,
Fine.
Now, at this
talk your
point,
heart out.
at this point, we'll close the discussion regarding that and move forward. I know Pete has some things that he would like to bring us up to speed on and some opportunities, and I know everyone's just going to talk on the other situation, so. Floor is yours, sir.
I'm not necessarily sure I have anything that
Okay.
are opportunities, but we're out of property and we need to keep moving forward, right? That's our goal as an agency here. So we need to collectively begin to think what our next steps are. Hopefully work with Steve and Sharon and the mayor and determine what properties we can acquire. Personally, I have two that are in mind that I think we should work on. I don't know where the city stands on it, but one is the property that did not meet the demise of the fire recently on Remsen, because I think we could really complete that corner if we can pick up that little parcel. Right, so we just had that recent fire. One didn't meet it. The other did. We have a large parking lot. Now we have an empty, tiny corner. So I think that could help us put something together there. And I don't know how the city currently sits or feels or what their future plans are with the former library, which I do not want to see demise. And I have some decent plans for what I think we can do there, but we need that in our hands to acquire it. And it's a big choice that you need to make if it's something that you want to.
My only question, it seems like that would also come to the LDC. Does that make sense?
With which property?
Any property?
There's no reason that any of them specifically must go either to the IDA or the LDC, doesn't mean there couldn't be a reason for it. It's not like that's the track they have to go on.
I guess my take on it is one natural way for things to flow is that LDC could acquire the property, sell that, whatever, and then if it's appropriate, they come to the IDA for a pilot or exemptions or whatever, which I guess my lean is more for us to deal with property exempt pilots and that sort of thing, and maybe not be the first one at bat for acquisition. And that also brings me to the Kelman property. I wonder, especially thinking about recreation. But go back to, so that's my take.
I'm happy to have a longer conversation about any of these parcels with you guys, just for the Cliff's Notes version
Yeah.
of where we stand with each of the two that you mentioned right now. The first one being the house, basically, it's like a residential home.
Well, now that the building's one, it's a really cute little house.
Yeah.
Like, I never noticed it all
It's
these
on the
years.
half burner side.
Yeah. It's always an issue.
So, I have attempted to reach out to the owner of that house unsuccessfully. I then went down in person and talked to the fire restoration folks who are doing work inside that building at this moment, or this week. And I spoke to the supervisor or foreman or whatever down there, explained who I was, I wanted to talk to the owner of the building, and I haven't heard back yet. That was just a few days ago.
Is it salvageable then, obviously?
They believe it's salvageable. When I was down there, you can see inside that they're like new wood, so they clearly believe it's
That's never
salvageable.
good.
Yeah.
If we're talking about that, for my 2 cents, it's only my 2 cents in my opinion, what we really need is parking. Get rid of the buildings and parking you can use forever. Businesses, you spend a lot of money, they come and they go, and they come and they go, but the parking is forever. I don't know which way your
Yeah,
thoughts
I
are.
mean, from my perspective, the adding more parking would be good. I also think that filling in some empty areas, those missing teeth is also a positive thing. So like, I'm an advocate of back street parking, right?
Yeah.
Like, fill in as much as you can on your main drag, which starts as Remsen Street, and then as much as you can, parking along Howard, White, Main, and blocking paths to them. So, I think that, on that side, I don't know what the answer is yet, because it's still not even clear to me right now whether the owner of that building is even willing to play ball, right? But with that said, maybe the answer is parking there, or maybe the answer is a building that goes along the entirety of that, from Newland to White, with parking behind it. I don't know what the answer is yet, but I think there's a larger conversation to be had there. I have made that outreach through 2 different avenues. Haven't heard back yet, but I'm hopeful every day. And then as far as the old library goes, the plan is for the city to put out a request for proposals on that. As soon as we can see the whites of our eyes on actually moving into this building, we need to have a place to move the books and other things that are stored in the building right now, before we can say somebody else can do something with this. Before we bought this building, I brought a couple of developers through what we're, I guess, now calling the old library. And there was interest there for it to be something that is developable on the private side. I think that on the public side, I think that building is a huge challenge to restore and maintain. But I think that with the cash flow that can be generated on the private side, I think that it's doable. So with that said, I don't know if the IDA wants to get into the chain of custody on that. It might not be.
I think that might be over our pay grade.
Yeah.
Are there clawbacks on the grant monies for that?
No. No, because anything that was done with grant money on that building was done with the intention of having it be continue to be a library, we will continue to have a library.
What about the county property, just taking of heads?
It's on.
You're talking about the one that Nate and his folks have,
The grassy knoll,
yes.
the old
yes.
dump.
I would like to, I would like to request that we not discuss that one at this moment. I have a couple of things potentially in the hopper there that are not really ready to find.
Is that accessible?
So it could be accessible, but it would be required that a curb cut be granted by the Department of Transportation, because we call that Cohoes Boulevard, it's still DOT property. And so the way that works is that you have to put an application through them, and the cost to actually get the curb cut is commensurate with the amount of total investment going in. So if you were putting in a garage on that site, the cost might be lower. If you're putting in a wall on that site, the cost is a lot higher.
Well, again, to throw it out there, the possibility of a recreation facility down there is kind of intriguing.
Yeah.
Well, we can now talk, Kate has given us the okay, we can talk about how we would like to reach out to Milltown and to continue on a discussion with them regarding their proposal because I personally think it's a great proposal. I think they're not thinking big enough, honestly. I think that there's some other locations we can look at. We have the situation with the prior Golden Cross and the Junker properties, and we have not ended our conversations on the best note with TCB, although they are an agency we have had a good working relationship in the past. I think that's a perfect spot. I'd love them to first consider. The high visibility right next to Hoffman's. I'm sure they would do a beautiful job at the area. And then they could build a 10,000 square foot, building there with having. That would be what I would like to reach out to them with.
I agree totally.
Yeah.
I think that's the solution.
Yeah, and mention fences, we can come back to TCB and, maybe offer them, it's up to them to close it, negotiate it and all that, but, I think that would be a good act of goodwill on our behalf.
It's a good location, I think, too. I don't know, I think that the access type thing's a great thing, but the accessing alone, I don't think it's gonna be economic profitable for them, doesn't have to be something else.
Oh, you don't know what it's like for Fields right now.
I'm gonna ask.
You haven't had young kids in a long time. That place will be sold out about an hour after they announce it.
That's a question, but I don't know the answer. Years ago, we always play ball at Lansing, there's a lot of lanes in there, I could think of a better place to play Nationals.
Yeah.
Maybe Lansing's. You got parking, you got a pool, you can get these kids off of Main Street, maybe.
I agree, except we don't own that to control it or have it.
That's our,
How much square feet would they want to do what they want to make it profitable? Yeah.
think about, but that is literally the largest green space the city has to offer. Outside of that, we don't have any other green
Just going on the
space.
wall. So,
A nice new modern building down at Junta with that visibility, what have you, where you could build like an Athens or whatever and do a 10 or, I have no idea the site, what would work there, but whatever square footage. It just seems like a no-brainer to me. It really does.
What's the appraisal on
would
that?
they be interested?
I don't know. We're on the same ballpark of the numbers that have been getting thrown around, so it's nothing crazy, I don't think. That one I know was more like one.
Trying to,
Yeah.
when I try to think through the process, though, if it's property we're acquiring through the county, that is property that's been, taken over by the county, turned over to us, then we have something to offer. If it's property that we have to go out to the market and purchase, we then have to turn around and sell it for what we
Profit.
paid.
Yeah. And more.
So there's really no benefit to the business because they could just buy it themselves. I'm just trying.
Oh, no,
to
we're not getting in the middle of this. We're going to try to put them at the same table, make them do their deal. We're just trying to get a little goodwill with TCB that we understand we were not happy how the last conversation ended.
I mean, just,
We would like to come back and say, we really do want to work with you and we think,
but I don't want to give them the wrong impression. What we're doing is giving them ideas, and there's not a lot we can do if you have to go to the market and buy the property and then.
we're not buying the property. We're just,
All right. Good.
I'm just going to.
No,
reach out and have
but I
lunch
think,
with Anthony
again,
and
right?
Make a suggestion.
Right, now we're bringing people together and shaking
Yeah.
hands, but regardless, in 2 weeks, we're gonna have a meeting for the fire sites. This one hopefully will move on and do what it needs to do in the time. That leaves us without property. That leaves us looking to develop, looking to create jobs, looking to do what our role is. And that's what we need to begin to cultivate because there's nothing next. And barring any major incidents, and hopefully that doesn't occur, we don't have the next move. So that's what we need to begin thinking of. Steve, we're poised, we're ready. So, put us to work. Let us know what you need help with and what we can acquire from the city and hopefully.
Certainly with the DRI, I assume some applications are going to come our way. I think there's certainly some conversations to be had on the grant money versus but there are sales tax exemptions and other things that we can offer, and as an agency, receive fees for that.
Yep.
But I agree with what you're saying.
You got people like a DRA approval, we're gonna have pilots.
We have to be realistic that they may apply.
They can apply.
That, well, that's,
Yeah, everyone has the right to.
they have the absolute right to apply.
I bet they shot balls, sorry.
Well,
That is
I was gonna
on
ask
on
about
record.
Albany Land Bank, do you meet with them somewhat frequently and look at properties that are coming up or ready to be
So
acquired?
actually, Joe Graves is actually still on the Albany Land Bank. So I talked to Joe, in fact, I talked to him yesterday, just kind of keeping up with what's going on.
I'd almost be interested, like Monopoly, like to look at properties that would be available, like multiple properties. And I think the city's historical perspective, right, has been to buy up these properties and get with companies like TCB and then, put certain types of housing there that are, pretty much the same type of housing over and over and over. I just wonder if that would help us kind of think of plans outside of the box too.
I have a map of properties that are either currently available or that we expect might become available. Because
Yeah.
they either pay their taxes in a certain amount of time or they're on the vacant building registry. And there are a few places where you can sort of see like.
Joe used to bring that in, it was like a heat map, here's
Yeah,
where,
yeah.
is
So I
that the
have
same
yes,
thing?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
That might be worth us looking at something tangible like that where we can make some goals, and say, oh, these properties could be of interest.
well, once we complete both the fire sites and Golden Cross, we will certainly have more capital to work with, of
Yeah.
course.
Yep.
I know Joe was real conversant with the layers and all of those things on the planning side, looking at all of those properties that are available and mapping them out and all that. Transfer that to you.
Yeah, I mean, but obviously Joe is great. I have some of the same skill set as Joe. I have the same educational background as Joe.
The,
So you can see it, you can print out a map and see exactly which parcels the land bank has and see if any of them.
That's what I was just saying.
Come together.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have that.
Yeah, at this point, it would just be a matter of updating that map with the most current information.
Okay? So,
title's tricky on those
exactly.
right now because of the Supreme Court decision on surplus funds. So,
Even with the land bank.
because
Well,
it
that
has
was,
nothing
that
to
was
do with
the
what you're
exact
selling
Supreme
it
Court
for.
ruling.
It has to do with the intrinsic value or the fair market value of the property. So even if you donate it to somebody, it's still worth something. So the title companies, including my own, don't like to insure those. And then you're gonna do a multi-phase development on there, no bank is gonna lend on it.
And the
So,
ruling itself was more, it wasn't focused on the big corporation getting screwed in this.
Right.
It was the person who
The
literally
owner.
lost their house in a tax abatement and,
Right.
then the city goes and makes $500,000 off the property.
Thank you, big government.
So, no, it was actually, it's one of those that, it's a ruling that makes sense and was right,
It
but the
does make sense.
ramifications were astronomical.
and there's state law now regarding the procedure for that.
Right, so they had to fix that.
The municipality has to have a policy to return surplus funds if it sells the property for more than the tax amount. So it's a giant mess.
We have to sell it for the appraisal, so.
It is, but there were a lot of cases where communities were really making bank on this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
They were running a hole,
And that's the whole point of the land bank too.
Right.
You want to be able to do more property.
and have self-funding and all that.
Yeah.
With that said, is there anything else that needs to be brought up today? Then at this point, I'll call for a motion for an adjournment. I thought you were raising your hand.
No,
You can't do that, Kate.
I'm not.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Gerald.
Joe made a second.
We will look again at an executive meeting. I don't think there's anything pressing right now.
Well, it falls on July 4th this
Okay.
coming month,
That's not good. It is.
So one of
But I don't think
the,
we.
but I don't think we have anything pressing. I'm going to end this, right?
the RFP on Remsen was the third.